So I'm gonna review Bad Mothers, Angry Neighbors, Broken Diamonds, and Brad's Status. And then I'm gonna let James talk about where to invade next after I go over Deadly Illusions and Okja, however you say that, again.
Or you didn't cover it?
Because, well, you see, I didn't. Sometimes people might get the impression that I don't give a good enough review because I don't want to spoil the story for them in case they watch it. So with these two videos, I already gave the review without spoiling the story, and I will spoil the story today. So don't, if you want to watch those movies, don't watch my review.
You're going to spoil the story about this one? I'm just kidding.
James is going to do that. Bad Mothers. It's from Australia, and they say on the cover, Australia's version of Desperate Housewives, and so true. Only way better, right? Australia did it way better than the United States. That usually doesn't happen when you see...
Not with Australia.
Yeah, Australia doesn't usually pull off.
It shouldn't be that hard to
programming,
outdo the Americans.
It really shouldn't. But, yeah, way better than Desperate Housewives. So good. There's, at one point, there's the detective says something about a missing shoe, and you're like, but I seem to remember there were two shoes there, so is there like some sort of problem with the people who made the movie when they were directing and cutting film and whatever? Did they do that incorrectly, right? Because you saw the two shoes, so you're like, but there were two. And, I mean, it happens all the time. They get sloppy in making films. Like, I will tell you about the sloppiness in these ones later, just to bring it up. But
and I'll tell you about the sloppiness and where to invade next.
Yeah, but nope, they did this right, and it's very entertaining. Anybody would like watching this, I'm pretty sure. You know, it's probably the same sort of crowd as Desperate Housewives. You're looking at mature women, you know, not senior citizens, but anyway, the in-between years. So yeah, that got top of the stack, for sure. Angry Neighbors, that was enjoyable too. Everyone's had a neighbor that they haven't gotten along with, I'm pretty sure, so that works.
You're lucky if it's only one.
Yeah. Broken Diamonds. I guess it gives people sort of some idea of how difficult it must be to be the caregiver or be a loved one of somebody with schizophrenia. But wow, it's at the same time I'm watching this and I'm going, okay, well, the therapist is saying, yeah, help her get a job, and it's like, huh? How is she going? And really, I see this all the time. You know, you see these big billboards of differently abled, not disabled, or whatever, and you're like, okay, so the society, they want to cut funding and push people out into the workforce so this differently abled person is now going to have to compete with somebody who is not differently abled to pack groceries, so that, you know, and I thought it was great when I went to Save-On and they had Down syndrome people doing the grocery bagging and whatever, but honestly, you know, I was...
You get the tomatoes on the bottom?
Exactly. The bread and the eggs are definitely going to be on the bottom. And maybe it's a kind of transition so that the grocery store owners are like, yeah, we'll look good about this, and then you'll want to bag your own groceries. So we'll be able to cut this job completely. So win-win for them, right?
Or it's like planned obsolescence
exactly.
for tomatoes. You know? Yeah, all our tomatoes are crushed and rotten, so we're going to have to buy more.
Maybe. I don't know. But does it work out great for the differently abled people that are having to be out there competing in the workforce? It doesn't seem fair to me. It doesn't seem like the powers that be are very sympathetic towards how differently abled they are. So anyway, there's that. Brad's status. I was surprised. You know, I've been seeing as Ben Stiller ages, he is getting more handsome. Most people don't, but he is. And this got the bottom of the stack for me because it was so incredibly boring. As much as I could...
You love Ben Stiller's stuff, right?
I do, and this had Pam from The Office in it too, not in a huge role, but... and so, anyway, I could relate to a lot of times people are living in the past, they're beating themselves up about opportunities that they've missed or something, or that they perceive they've missed when maybe the timing wasn't right. I mean, I look back at things in my life and I go, wait a minute, I was presented with this information, I only discovered this information when it was too late. So can I really beat myself up about missing that opportunity? I really can't, you know, because I was right along, I was working, I wanted the information, and then it presents itself as, it's like a bad joke. It's like the universe is wanting to, ha ha ha, here's the information now. Let's see if you off yourself or whatever. But anyway, in the end of this story, you end up thinking, yeah, he has it pretty good, and so do I. Whatever. So maybe it worked, but it was just so incredibly boring for me that, like, I kept looking down at the how much time had passed on the display on the DVD player, and I'm like, 15 minutes? 22 minutes? And it felt like it was ages just going by, right? But so I don't know how many other people actually made it to the end of this movie besides me. It was difficult. So, Deadly Illusions. Now I'm totally going to ruin these movies for you.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, because I've already reviewed them in a way that you can watch them, and I didn't ruin them. So, but this, I'm working to ruin this for you. Like some things I keep back in my reviews. I don't tell people because I'm like, okay, well, if I gave that information, would it give everything away? And I don't want to ruin the experience for you, the movie watching experience. So sometimes I hold back on things. Like, we were talking about desperate housewives with bad mothers, and I think this woman was one of the desperate housewives, if the lead woman in this, if I'm not mistaken. But it's hard to remember, isn't it? So at one point, the woman and her nanny, babysitter, whatever, nanny, they're dancing together. Like, there's a lot of things in this movie you're like, okay, nobody would go and bring, like, nobody would go by there. Like, there was a joke on Curb Your Enthusiasm where the main character wanted to buy his housekeeper a bra, and it was so inappropriate, right? And everybody joked about it because it was so inappropriate, even though this woman had need for one, or, you know, in society's general opinion. But anyway, this woman, the woman of the house, she takes the girl out to buy her a treat of some lingerie. Really? Who does that? Nobody would do that. That's nuts. And so she's in the fitting room with her, putting on bras, putting her bra on for her and stuff, like, huh? And then there's some parts of the show you're like, okay, wait, is the main character, is this a part of her imagination, right? She's a fiction writer, she's writing a story, and she gets into what she's writing, she becomes, she thinks a little bit more creatively, perhaps, than the real world around her presents itself. I don't, anyway, so you're wondering, okay, well, is this real? And then, I mean, there's a lot of parts where they just didn't do the job filming, like piecing things together, making sure it was things were correct. You know, people will make fun of Star Trek episodes or whatever, saying, oh, this was there and then whatever. Well, there's a lot of problems like that in this, like when they're dancing, the towel around the nanny, first it's up here and then it's down here and then it's up here again, and you know, what? Why couldn't you get that right? It's not that hard, you know, so there's a lot of things like that. And yet still, like I said, it was a decent mystery, not nearly as good as Bad Mothers. That one's they did a good job on that one. And I haven't seen problems like that dance scene or whatever, or things that were just not believable. Bad Mothers, you have things that it's believable. These characters are believable, way more believable than the Desperate Housewives ones. And you get to see Australia scenery in the meantime, you know, in the background, beautiful ocean scenery, beaches, oh, wonderful. Okja. Now, I didn't mention that this has 2 discs in it. I did not watch the second disc. I don't know what's on the second disc. Maybe some explanations for why when the bad Americans who took their Okja away from the little girl in the mountains, the little Korean girl, they took Okja away to America, and it was like they were abducting her from the girl, and then they anyway, I guess it doesn't matter about that part, but when they took her to a testing facility or whatever, they had her in a breeding program. It was so abusive because she's having to breed. Well, they don't do that. It's artificial insemination. You can think, oh yeah, breeding, oh that's so cruel to make people breed or whatever, to make animals. They might want to, but they don't. They don't get to. You know, it's artificial insemination. And so maybe the makers of the movie, maybe in the background, they're trying to promote artificial insemination, because oh yeah, making animals breed, that's terrible, so abusive. But it didn't make sense. Maybe they were thinking, okay, well at the end of the movie we want the scene of Okja with a little tiny baby Okja, because everyone loves seeing baby animals, and what a happy ending, you know, that she's gonna have this little baby. But it didn't make sense with this story. So she's in this breeding facility, and then all of a sudden she's in it looks like a feedlot that's right with the slaughterhouse. So there's a whole bunch of animals penned off, and so why was she put through the breeding program if she was just going to be slaughtered? And that doesn't make any sense at all, right? So anybody watching this should be thinking, that's crazy. And then you get this scene where the people are going by and looking at all these animals in behind the electric fence in the feedlot kind of area, and there's a little baby there, a little baby of this genetically modified pig species. And anybody who knows anything at all is looking, why is there a baby in there? They wouldn't have the baby in there unless they were wanting to, you know, like people eat veal. That's a baby animal, but it's kept differently, and it's not going to be in with the same population to be slaughtered, right? It's not, and they don't call it slaughtering anymore. They call it harvesting, because I call it clean washing. They want to take the death and the dirty right out of it. So animal killing, yeah, it's certainly don't want to call it murder, and you don't even want to call it slaughtering anymore. No, it's harvesting. So whether you have a crop of cows or goats or wheat or canola. It's all harvesting, you know. So anyway, but so it didn't make sense that the baby was in the feedlot area. It didn't make sense that Okja was going to be slaughtered after she was put through a breeding program. What was the point of that if she wasn't going to actually have offspring? So had they explained, oh yeah, well it turns out she's infertile or something, then okay, then that makes sense, she went off there. But they had no explanation for it. So it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. Lots of things didn't make sense. And then you get to the slaughterhouse, and it's pretty clean. You know, it basically looks like a supermarket in there. Only there's more space for, you know, a supermarket. The meat's all packed together and a little display case in this. Everything's going by slowly and whatever. And so it's not believable at all. It's, if anything, I think that they might have been clean washing when they were making this, to try to say, oh look, it's better for Americans are so bad with livestock, you know. We should have Koreans produce the meat because they're so much better with the animals or whatever. I don't know what they're saying, right? And even when you get to the American system of killing off the animals, it's like, wow, that's way better looking than it actually is in reality. You know, clean washed again, right? So there's like so many levels of clean washing here. And anyway, but they managed to get that little baby, they rescue that little baby out of the feedlot between the electric fence wires. And that little baby Okja is going to have a wonderful life in the Korean mountains with Mama Okja. Anyway, had some nice Korean mountain scenery.
They do have a lot of mountains.
Yeah, so that was beautiful. Where to invade next? James is going to go over that.
Maybe. So maybe if you get up, when you get up, you can check and see time. But you don't have to.
You have lots of minutes.
How much?
Like 11 or 12.
Anyway, last time, was yesterday, we covered how Michael Moore hit Norway, I believe it was, and Tunisia.
Yeah, you were talking about Iceland last we left off. Or ending off with like Iceland.
So I'll kind of review. He hit Tunisia, talking about their Equal Rights Amendment bill passed, despite the fact that they had a fundamentalist government elected after the so-called Arab Spring. I was coming down with, I was in the last stage of bone marrow cancer. Well, the real last stage is 6 feet under. The average person lasts the last stage, which is the third stage of bone marrow cancer. With most cancers, I gather it's 4 stages you've got before 6 feet under. And the Arab Spring was going on, and I was walking around trying to maintain my, not health, but trying to keep my bones from falling up my skeleton falling apart from osteoporosis. I didn't know what was going on. Of course, the doctors had no clue. Recently, I was in 3 years ago, just a little less than 3 years ago, I was in emergency. I was saying, no, this is the kind of diagnosis I made on myself. Woke up, I was reading, and I go, I can't see out of the southwest quadrant of my field of vision. That would be the lower left-hand side, substantial part of it. Now, here's how the diagnosis goes. It's 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. So I close one eye, 1 1,000. The other eye, 2 1,000. I notice that it's the same degree of vision loss in one as in the other. So 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. So it's less than 6 seconds. I notice that it's the same amount of vision loss in each eye. That means there's not something that's wrong with either eye. There's something wrong with where they're connected up to. What is that? You go through the optic nerve and you end up with the brain. I end up going to emergency and I tell them I'm missing stuff from my peripheral vision. So they give me an eye test, which is testing the ability of your cones as opposed to your rods. The rods are responsible for your peripheral vision. And they Conan me. Conan the Barbarian me. Were they behaving like Conan? No, they were treating me like Conan. What is Conan? He's a Cimmerian, not just a barbarian. What's a Cimmerian? You look and yes, I have studied ancient Assyrian. You look at ancient Assyrian, they knew the Cimmerians. They called them Gimmerai. Get used to the idea that when you go from one language to another, you're not going to run across the same rendering of a particular word, person or place name. Gimmerai. Where do we get the word Cimmerian from? It's from the Greeks, Cimmerians. They're a bunch of barbarians. Conan the Barbarian. I don't think he was a historic figure. I'm being a little bit ironic. But just a little bit. But I'm a little bit afraid it's going to get lost on you nifty lefties and you tighty righties and all you people that can't stand democracy and freedom of speech. So Gimmerai in ancient Assyrian, what were they called in the biblical tradition? Gomer. I was being treated like a Gomer. That's Cimmerians. Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Gomer in the Bible. Check it up. Or don't if you don't. A lot of you nifty lefties are strutting around. You really know religions. They're all about peace, love. You don't quite get the flowers in there, usually, but it's kind of understood. Gomer. And that is an acronym. It's not an initialism, strictly speaking. It's an acronym. What does it stand for in the health profession? Health on profession? Get out of my emergency room. That's the way they treated me. Oh, I made the mistake of coming up with my own diagnosis. I go to an ophthalmologist, and within 5 seconds of him analyzing my field of vision, oh, you've had a stroke. Yeah, tell me about it. Anyway. Tunisia, Equal Rights Amendment. They're saying, superior to the United States. The United States has never passed their Equal Rights Amendment. Yeah, it's kind of like what's called in the parliamentary system, an omnibus bill. The Equal Rights Amendment has been that way for decades in the United States. And what's included in that omnibus bill? I don't know if that's what they call it in the American tradition. Omnibus means there's lots of riders. There's lots of other things that they're trying to get passed. And, you know, I was looking. One of the 3 items on the Equal Rights Amendment that I gather Bozo, Moore got things right. And these were the 3 most important ones. The top one is equal opportunity. You know, that's what I believe in. Didn't say anything about equal outcomes, the way the nifty lefties are yipping and yapping and chittering and chattering. Equal opportunity. What came along with Equal Rights Amendment? When I first heard about it decades ago, I was dead set against it. affirmative action for women. No equal rights. It might be hard to institute, but you don't get equal rights by having affirmative action. I don't care what portion of the population you have it for. You've got to strive for equal rights. When you've got nifty lefties yipping and yapping about, equal opportunity, no, equal outcomes. What that suggests to folks that are on the right wing, the tighty righties or righty tighties, and and I might be talking about sphincters when I'm talking about the tighties. When the nifty lefties are saying equal outcomes, it suggests the righty tighties and people sitting on the fence. They're going, equal opportunity has been achieved, and I don't think it has. There's some real problems with, for example, domestic abuse and a variety of things like that. Like harassment of women, stalking of women, threatening women. Like guys can do it, and women who are subjected to that. It's just people in general, but women get subjected way more than men. They are it's like permanent. Someone in that situation, being threatened with death or maiming, they're in permanent incarceration. There's no way they can get away from these bozos. No, I figure if someone threatens someone at the very least twice, but it probably should just be once, threatens them with death, they should be tucked in jail forever.
Yeah, well, a lot of the time, I was talking about that with the clean washing. A lot of the time when people who pretend to be left-wing people,
there's lots of the vast majority of people who are strutting around calling themselves left-wing.
Because people might have heard the little bit that I was talking about differently abled people and went, she's really? Because I actually care about those people. I want to see that they're getting care and good treatment. So how am I? I'm not the one who's shoving them out into the workforce to end up on the streets because they can't compete. I'm not that person. Who's doing that? It's those fake left-wingers who are doing that. So a lot of the time, and they'll make it seem like, we're the good guys. We're doing this to help people. And if you say anything against what we're doing, well, you're terrible. You're a bad person.
Good guys don't do that.
But no.
That's Puritanism.
Yeah.
It's just impure Puritanism, because you guys have really screwed up ways of protecting yourselves against, what's the buzzword now, STDs.
But really those fake left-wingers, they're the bad guys. They're bad guys.
Well, they're not the bad guys. They are bad guys. Yeah. There's lots of the bad guys. There's tidy righties. Yeah. There's some major religions, really bad.